There we go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Avini Vibes. Tonight is Thursday, December 19th. Can you believe it? Only 6 days away till Christmas. And I bet if I took a poll in the room, how many have finished your shopping? Let's see. Any hands up? Yes. All right, Alan, I'm impressed. All right, Dave, now I'm impressed. Yeah, so I've asked a lot of people, particularly men, and they say, "Oh no, I'm going on the 24th." I said, "Okay, so be it." But all
Looks
good
like we got a
stuff.
roller
I'm glad
quarter.
that you're with us tonight at Avini Vibes. Amazing company, as you know it. Avini Health. We're very, very fortunate to be a part of this company. A company that's second to none in its products, in its education, in its people. And somebody I forget who said, maybe Chip said, smart people join this company, and that is the facts, and that is the truth. And you're one of them because you took your time on a Thursday night to be with us at Avini Vibes. And want to always say thank you to Carol Witt. Carol, couldn't do it with Carol. Thank you, Carol, for always being there. She's just so wonderful at what she does. She's brilliant in her craft. So thank you for being there. We're good to see Hannah with us tonight. Hannah had a terrible accident. She was sharing with us, got hit by a car, and we'll probably have to have her on for her own show to tell how her recovery is coming. But Hannah, we're really glad to see you and glad that you're alive and on the way to recovery. So just remember that we make no health claims. We don't diagnose. We're just here to share these amazing products, our own experiences, testimonies, and again, learn from one another and encourage one another. We're getting to the end of the year, so we'll talk about that at the close of the show. But I was very, very excited tonight when I reached out to Dave Neff earlier in the week, and I originally I said, Dave, can you speak in January? And then it dawned on the two of us. We came together as like minds, right, Dave? And we said, okay, what can we talk about? Well, I don't know about you, but Dave is so knowledgeable about the heart. And what I've learned, I've known this, but I had to kind of reboot my thoughts about a wonderful product that we have about our heart. Our heart beats over 100,000 times a day. It pumps about 1.5 gallons of blood every minute over the course of a day, and that adds up to about 2,000 gallons. And one of the fearful facts, I thought, Dave, this would be a good topic for us to have this discussion because of your experience, that the most number of heart attacks occur each year on Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, or New Year's Day, or very close behind. So we're here so we can learn more about Avini, its products, and the heart. And with nothing more for me to say other than to welcome Dave. Dave, please come and share about your experience, your knowledge, and what you've learned in 2 years now since Avini started. Thank you, Dave, for being here.
Absolutely, Christine. Thank you for the opportunity. I jumped into my library and grabbed a few books. There's three of my favorite books in relationship to cardiovascular disease, and it being the number one killer, the biggest danger, and it's been that way for years and years and years. Probably my favorite book is called No More Heart Disease, subtitled How Nitric Oxide Can Prevent, Even Reverse Heart Disease and Strokes, written by Dr. Louis J. Ignato, the Nobel laureate, won the Nobel Prize, along with a couple other doctors. Then, since I read my first study, scientific and medical study through the Stanford Medical Library, it connected me a little bit with Dr. John Cook. He's an MD, PhD, and he wrote a book called The Cardiovascular Cure: How to Strengthen Your Self-Defense Against Heart Attack and Stroke. Another one that you can't see it very well without, I don't know how. Anyway, I must have a setting on that makes me not show books. But anyway, and then a naturopathic doctor who knew Dr. Louis Ignato very well as well. And he calls his book, Let's Stop the Number One Killer of Americans Today, A Natural Approach to Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease. Dr. Elwert, naturopathic doctor with a PhD. And then last but not least, the book it's called The Arginine Solution, the first guide to America's new cardio enhancing supplement. All four of these writers, and that one has two, an MD and a PhD as the authors, but all of these writers and all of these books dovetail in their understanding of what won the Nobel Prize in medicine. And so it just became very, very intriguing to me to see so much clear guidance in a natural program to reverse cardiovascular disease. Now, so I don't talk about just the heart, but it's the whole cardiovascular system. It's the heart as the pump, and somewhere in the area of 100,000 miles of pipes, arteries and veins in our bodies. That's massive. And one of the things I learned early on is if we lose the elasticity to those tissues that make up our arteries and our veins, there's a real problem. Because when, I don't know if I can show you this, when the heart beats, boom, it causes a little bit of an action like this to go out into the, like a vibration out into the arteries. And so as the arteries work like that, it pushes the blood along. So you got 100,000 miles of pipes that are helping move the blood. When we lose our heart, or rather our cardiovascular elasticity, guess what? The heart has to do all of the work by itself, forcing the blood through 100,000 miles of solid pipes. And probably solid pipes that are also developing a coating on the inside of them that's much like Velcro. And a lot of resistance is there. And it builds up and closes up the space and maybe even clogs all the way. And of course, lots of times pieces will break off and cause other issues. And so it's interesting because I was just reading tonight, reviewing a little bit, how the downside of vascular tone constriction, how blood pressure goes up and why. And all of these things together are frightful if you really look at them. And if you look in the mirror and you're honest with yourself, understand that cardiovascular disease is a silent killer. Sometimes you know you have cardiovascular disease when you have your first massive heart attack. If you survive that, then hopefully you can do something about it. And maybe you will have been taught instead of just using a pharmaceutical of this kind or that kind or the other kind, which is basically a Band-Aid to try to take away some of those symptoms, it doesn't correct the underlying cause of the problem. And so we need to get back to the beginning of cardiovascular disease. Now, interesting enough to me, I spent about $20,000 and purchased a piece of medical equipment. And with that DPA system, digital pulse analyzer, I did get invitations from numerous medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, and other medical personnel to come and test their patients. What I would do at the beginning of the week, because I would spend a week at each office. They would give me an exam room. I'd set my equipment up so I didn't have to take it down and set it up every day. And then I would see patients literally about every half hour. And I'd just run the test, and then I would make the results available to their doctor and to them. The interesting part is I would start the whole week by getting all of the patients together and the staff, if the doctor wanted me to talk to them as well. And then I would give them probably a 1 hour to, maybe a 2-hour seminar. Anyway, a seminar teaching them the danger, the reality of the greatest killer, cardiovascular disease, and then teaching them a natural way to reverse the problem, to truly reverse it, a way that was discovered and won the Nobel Prize in medicine. I mean, that's huge. And it was exciting to me, a little note here, when we were at the conference where Rik was introducing this, I was a person sitting there with my arms crossed like this, like, okay, Rik, I really respect you. I love what you've done. What do you know about cardiovascular disease? You know, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, what's he going to, 15 minutes into it, it's like, wow, he cites the very study that won the Nobel Prize.
So Dave, we have some guests on, so they don't know who Rik is probably.
Oh, would you like me to introduce Rik? Is Rik hiding? No.
No, he's not in here tonight, but just a
Rik,
brief little about who Rik is.
Yep, Rik Deitsch, interestingly enough, has been working for 20 plus years on various discoveries, and he's a scientist that worked in the regular, what should I call it here? The allopathic community, the pharmaceutical community, but he also got involved in the natural community. And wow, he has done some things that are absolutely stunning. Things that I will say, how shall I say this? Indirectly, well, let's just put it this way. They helped save the lives of some of my siblings. Okay. So with that, I mean, I could go into all kinds of detail. I'd love to send out some details about him to anybody who's a guest. But anyway, all that said, maybe that can happen at some point. Somebody can help them understand really who he is and what he's done. And I'm going to reference a couple of things he's done, though, because one of the things he's done is directly related to cardiovascular disease. Actually, more than one is. One called Cell Defender. Now, I like to describe it this way. I ask questions. I ask a person that I'm talking to, do you know what zeolite is? And probably about 90% say, no, never heard of it. What is it? It's a volcanic rock. When a volcano explodes and this molten lava flies into the air, and especially when it falls into salt water, it forms a form of zeolite known as clinoptilolite zeolite. And I do let them know that we're going to have a test shortly after I finish talking. But anyway, clinoptilolite zeolite. And the interesting part about that rock is when it forms instantaneously, inside the rock, there's thousands of tiny little chambers. And these little chambers, interestingly enough, have some characteristics that are just absolutely stunning. For instance, they have a negative or a minus electrical charge, a strong minus electrical charge. And heavy metals and toxins like cadmium and arsenic and lead and mercury, and a lot of these things that are bad for you, have a very positive electrical charge. And so there's an attraction between this clinoptilolite zeolite and the heavy metals that's an intense, like I'm just going to use the term, it's not magnetic, but it's like a magnetic charge, and just pulls them in and locks them in those little chambers. Those thousands of chambers in there are just picking up, as soon as that rock forms, they're picking up heavy metals from the air, from the earth, etc., and they're beginning to fill up, and it locks them in. Obviously, when you get the positive in there with the negative, now it's balanced, and it's just locked in there and stays put. The interesting part about it is most people that have done anything with zeolite, this clinoptilolite zeolite, has simply gone to the mine, got a bunch of rocks, crushed them into powder, and then put them in cat litter and some supplements too, because they found out that they tend to get rid of odors and various and sundry things. And I think some of them finally figured out that maybe they collect some heavy metals. The problem is I've talked to 7 different companies recently. 5 of them answered my question. I asked them very general questions showing interest in zeolite, just in general. I don't tell them who I am or what I've done. And I asked these questions like, well, so how do you clean this? And what do you do to prepare it for this supplement you have? And they said, oh, well, we don't need to clean it. It's natural. And right that instant, I know they don't have the slightest idea what this really is. They just don't. You don't just crush it into powder and throw it and all the trapped heavy metals into a supplement. That doesn't make any sense. Now, hopefully what they're using has a few of those chambers that are empty and that can actually grab something. But what Rik, the scientist we mentioned, did is 3 key things. Simplified here. 1, his word, he learned to micronize this clinoptilolite zeolite. He doesn't crush it into powder. It's like he disassembles it. He pulls it apart and doesn't break up all those chambers and crush them and all this kind of stuff. So he takes it apart and he takes it all the way down to little particles that are about the size of roughly 1/7 the size of a single red human blood cell, about 7 times smaller than a blood cell, roughly. And then secondly, he learned how to remove all the heavy metals from those chambers. He cleans them out, empties them. And then he learned how to recharge them all with that negative charge if they needed it. So now he's got these unique particles, and he actually registered the name of these after he's finished with them. It's a multi-day process. When he's finished with them, he registered the name as detoxolite. Detoxolite. And the interesting part about it is this is only available through this little new company that was formed around Rik's discoveries called Avini. So the detoxolite, he takes that detoxolite and he puts it into highly purified water. This is his foundational discovery. And that he calls Cell Defender. And Cell Defender has had an amazing success at helping begin the calming of the cardiovascular system. It's amazing how that thing is foundational to the cardiovascular system. What are we doing with it? It's not a vitamin. It's not a mineral. No, it's a tool, if you will. We're simply putting it into the body, and it's so small. When you put a squirt of that in your mouth, it'll get into your bloodstream very quickly, goes around the body, and begins to attract any heavy metals that are in there, like I said, like an intense magnetic pull. It just grabs them and traps them in those empty chambers. Once the heavy metals taken out of your bloodstream are in those heavy chambers, then those heavy metals cannot hurt you at all. And then in short order, your urinary system drains those heavy metals from your body. Now, your body notices that your blood is clean, or it begins to notice that, and it begins then to dump heavy metals into your blood. Where's it getting the heavy metals? For your life. Your body notices these dangerous things coming in, and it begins to hide them in places in your body to try to keep them from affecting your organs and your life. And so it puts them in fat cells, puts them into bones, does a number of different things where it tries to keep you alive. Now, interestingly enough, when it can't hide them anywhere else, then it remains in your blood, things are going in and out and work, your trouble happens. I challenge anybody here to get online and Google, or do a search engine with whatever engine you want to use, and Google, as an example, cancer and heavy metals. Those 4 words: heart disease or cardiovascular disease and heavy metals. Any disease name and add the words and heavy metals. You'll begin to see a graphic, a clear connection between the buildup of heavy metals in the human body and major diseases. Interestingly enough, what we're seeing now, graphically, especially with Rik's discoveries, is that when we effectively and successfully remove the heavy metals from the body begins to, in Rik's words, fix itself like it was designed to do. This has been amazing to me because I'm this second oldest of 11 siblings. I guess I should add from the same parents, okay? And we're all just about maybe anywhere from 13 to 15 months apart. And Mom did live to 99 in spite of all of our troubles. No, anyway, all of our challenges. Interestingly enough, 5 of my siblings have passed away of different types of cancers. That's what they passed away from. And then the next 2 that got sick, different ball game. Why? Because I got a phone call from Sherry Knowles about this when my 5th sibling was dying, and I was desperately trying to save his life. She knew about it, knew we were praying for him, and I was working with him, and because he only lived 50 miles from me. And so she said, Dave, you're going to want to know about this for your brother John. That's her phone call she gave to me, and I'm going, know about what? And this was back right in the month the company started. And her answer to me when I said know about what was, I don't even know how to tell you. All I know is this scientist, she gave me his name. I was able to get connected. I was able to find out some information, read 14 peer-reviewed studies. And honestly, when I was reading those studies, in my mind, it was flashing. This is too good to be true. This is too good to be true. But then I had to step back mentally and realize, no, this is not hype. This is not somebody trying to sell me anything. This is actual studies in the medical journals, approved by other scientists and doctors. This is real. That's when I was convinced I owed it to my brother to at least try and see if I could save his life. He had already spent over $150,000 on different natural treatments, all kinds, using all kinds of vitamins and minerals and herbs and homeopathic remedies, all kinds of things. Went to the Gerson Clinic. That alone cost him $30,000 for 3 weeks. And he came home, and within 1 week, he felt just like he felt before he left. It just, nothing was working. And that just absolutely perplexed me, because in the almost 60 years that I've been working with all kinds of supplements and herbs and things like that, and working with people in many, many ways, I've seen lots of nutrients that they didn't have in their bodies. We were able to put them in, and they had improvements. But in the last decade, I wasn't seeing much of it. It's like, what is going on? And with my brother, it was graphic. It wasn't working. And then when she introduced me to this, and I ordered about $1,500 worth, I just figured, oh, you know what, I got to get a bunch of this. And if it's going to work, it's not going to not work, because I ran out, that's for sure. And so I went up to him, and he was basically comatose. We thought he was going to die already. And basically I'm pulling his lips apart, putting some in, and it became very interesting. It took about 45 days, and all of a sudden, how can we keep pulling on my lips? You know, it's just like, what? He talked again. And interestingly enough, another month, and he understood what we were doing. And he was on oxygen 24/7, just pretty much laying there staring at the ceiling half the time, most of the time. And but within about 5 months, long story real short, about 5 months, full biopsies couldn't find a trace of his cancer that he had been suffering from for what? Over 8 years at stage 4. People don't usually survive stage 4 after that much time. They don't. And so what really became interesting was that he began to live a normal life. He had great time with his children, his grandchildren, and us siblings, and so on. And then after a year and a half, now, don't jump to any conclusions here. I'm going to explain this. But after a year and a half, all of a sudden, within about a 2-week period, bam, we had to bury him. What happened? Now, let me tell you, before I tell you what happened, that the next 2 siblings that got sick badly with the development of really bad cells in the body, one of them being my brother Steve, who had way too much Agent Orange over in Vietnam, in the war zone. I mean, people who get Agent Orange, typically that's a death sentence. I mean, it's just amazing how many people pass from that. And Steve saw what happened with John. Well, with John, he had been 8 years at stage 4 already. It was too little, too late. That's kind of the bottom line. I'll tell you what happened in a minute. But with Steve, he thought, oh, I got to get busy now. So he started putting squirts of this into his mouth in his awake day. He was using pretty much the Marcy dose, which is named after Chip's wife, Marcy, who learned to put it in once every hour of her awake day. And Steve was doing it plus or minus 10 times a day, almost the Marcy dose, and drinking extra water. We really, 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 time out, pressured him into realizing, we didn't pressure him into realizing, he learned it. We pressured it onto him. You got to take a couple gulps every half hour of your awake day. It will enhance the process, the successfulness of the removal of the heavy metals. It really will. He did that. 9 months later, full biopsies, no sign. He had tumors originally popping out on his skull, prostate cancer, a number of different types. And after 9 months, no sign, none. And I never heard him so giddy over the phone, you know. It's just really, really interesting to see this kind of thing happening simply by successfully removing the heavy metals and toxins from the body and allowing the body to begin to fix itself. Now, let me just tell you what happened to my brother John. Basically, I was counseled to take his studies, his urine studies and his blood studies and so on. I had them basically quarterly for 8 years. So I had about 30 some studies, okay? And I was told to lay those out chronologically. And then look at this code, this code, this code. So I was pointed to the codes that showed the operation of his organs. And starting with the oldest one first, that gave me the baseline. They were operating at that point. The next one, a quarter later, 3 months later, they were down. Next one, down. Next one, down. Every single study showed them going down, 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 even just by a little bit. By the time 8 years comes, how functional are his organs? We're talking about his liver, his spleen, his kidneys, etc. Well, what we didn't know about that. We weren't paying attention to that. So when we used the cell defender with this detoxolite in it, it successfully cleaned out the heavy metals and toxins, allowing his body to fix itself, except his organs were too far gone and we didn't know it. So it's like, this is what I was told, layman's language here. It's like he was living on battery power for a year and a half. When the battery ran out, his body did not have the capability to recharge. Simple as that. So what did that underscore for the rest of my siblings? That we don't wait until it's too late. If you're well, you're not suffering from any major disease right now, get the heavy metals out. It'll be a delight not to ever know what you might have been suffering with. You see what I'm saying? And my siblings came to grips with that basic idea. So they're using it and making sure they're clean. Okay, that said, jumping back to cardiovascular disease, I got about 5 more hours I could give you, but let's just kind of cut it a little bit here. When I go back to cardiovascular disease, Rik came out with that plus cardio, and the combination of the cell defender with the detoxolite in it, and now the plus cardio also with detoxolite in it, but also with the combination of nutrients that are the Nobel standard. They really are. And it's interesting because I'm going to tell you this one story, fact, where a gentleman came into a chiropractor's office in Southern California when I was testing in that office. And this guy came in, I would demonstrate it. I usually demonstrate it when I'm public speaking and I'm there in front of you, but he was bent over at the waist and just kind of barely walking in, little cane, and his wife was holding his other shoulder and whatnot. And my first thought was, whoa, what's his age? 120? If I knew what 120 years old really looked like, I think I would guess this right here. And then my thought was, is he going to make it through the test? It's not a stressful test at all. But I took his, I was taking his medical history, name, age, birth date, whatever. He was 51 years old. I could not believe that. I mean, I could, but it was the worst case I'd ever seen. In his medical history, he had already survived 5 separate heart attacks, 5 of them. He knew he was on borrowed time, and he had 7 stents holding arteries open in his chest. And so this gentleman came in, he was very humble, very kind, and I found out in his history that he had stopped every single medical drug, pharmaceutical, that he'd been using a year before I met him. He just looked at his wife and said, I'm so sick and tired of all these side effects. I'm stopping. If I die, I die. That's what he said. That's what he did. So when I tested him, it was a very, very accurate test because there was no distortion of the results by pharmaceutical input, because I have to account for that sometimes with people. That said, I was back in that same office about 14 months later, not knowing who I was going to test. And I figured I'd retest some people because I never retest a person in less than a year. And then so people came back in and new patients came in, some new employees came in and so on. And it was on a Wednesday, if I remember correctly. And a guy came kind of semi-bounding in the door and sat down. I said, name, typed in the name, and bam, the record of that gentleman popped up. I'm going, I mean, I don't know if he noticed or not, but I couldn't believe it. 14 months later, here he sits. He's 52 years old now. And guess what? He's jogging like a normal 52-year-old ought to be doing. He's lifting weights. He's doing all kinds of things to take care of his body. He used, in essence, now Rik didn't have this formulation out yet, so he's using a different formulation. But in essence, he used 3 pills as if it was ours 3 times a day at the counsel of a naturopath who has a PhD in cardiovascular nutrition. So that's what he did. And he did that for 14 months. His wife said he never missed 1 dose 3 times a day for that full 14 months. When I tested him the first time, he was the worst I'd ever tested. When I tested him the second time, 14 months later, he was 3 points from perfect. It was amazing to me. It's like, what a transformation. It proved that these Nobel standards are amazingly useful. especially if we do like he did and change some of our lifestyle as well. You know, get a little more regular, keyword regular exercise, get a little more regular sleep, and so on and so forth. The rest and exercise and handling stress better, eating better instead of packaged foods. By the way, packaged foods nowadays, you'll get them a lot more nutrition if you just eat the package. Oh, never mind. We won't go there. We just went there, didn't we? Anyway, I am actually delighted to be able to share some of this with you. It's exciting to me. When I first got started in this business, it wasn't a business to me. It was a potential way to save my brother's life. That's the only reason I signed up. And it was a delight to discover the level of high ethics that surround the little company of Avini and the people involved. That was such a delight. I had worked with 42 different suppliers of natural things. Some of them were organic farms and whatnot, but 9 of them were network marketing companies. And they all had their definite gotchas. You know, you get on the auto ship. Yeah, I can't figure out how to get off. You get on it, you earn some of those points like we can earn. You turn your auto ship off, points go away. Just all kinds, and there's an annual fee and all these different things. What a joy to see the way they have put Avini together, to throw all those goofy things out and just work as a positive, upbeat, ethical company with a desire and focus on helping people get well. And that's why I got in, to help my brother get well. Now, lo and behold, here I am just trying to find other people to help him get well. So counting downline and everything, there's 500 plus people, and I get calls from all kinds of people downline saying, well, what do I do for this? What about that? And it's fun to be able to train them and teach them how to get well, and then be well enough so that their neighbors and friends are going, whoa, what did you do? And this is what I'm finding is that when I explain this science to somebody, I don't go out and try to get somebody to buy a product. I don't do that. What do? I explain the science. First, I ask them questions. I listen to see if I can find out what their physiological needs are. Then I explain the science, kind of like I explained the cell defender a little bit ago. I explain that so they understand the potential of what it can do. I share with them what happened to some of my siblings, not to mention all kinds of other people now. And what do they say to me? They say, how can I get this? Where can I get it? I need this. That's what they're doing. Instead of me running out and trying to sell somebody a product, they're begging me to get them hooked up to get this. You know, it's just a completely different ballgame. Anyway, I better shut up or we're going to be tomorrow.
Hey, that was so beautifully said, and I love why you did what you did, because of your brother, your love for your brother, your concern for your family's health. And I think if we went around the room, Dave, we'd find that amongst each one of us, that somebody that we cared about or they cared enough about us was open enough to share and bold enough and courageous. We use the word courage a lot. But you know, your heart, what an important thing. We have to take care of our heart. I know at the conference, Rik talked about the flexibility as you did, how it needs to be pliable. And too many people we know these days are experiencing heart attacks and dying early deaths. So we're all here for the same reason, to share and learn. And I love what you said. You look like you love life, and you never worked a day in your life because you love what you do. And we can see that in your smile, your face, and your expression. So thank you. Thank you so much. Right, everybody? Isn't it awesome to
Thank you.
have Dave with us tonight? Now, what I wanted to do is just share a moment. I don't have Wayne on camera, but Wayne's going to share a couple minutes also. Wayne is brand new, but he's going to share with us a couple minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. How's that, Wayne? I'd love to have you on camera to see your face, but we're just going to give you the floor if you would like to share a little bit about your experience and why you got involved with Avini.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. I tell you what, I was so excited. I thought I was going to have a heart attack listening to you.
Uh-oh.
But a little over a year ago, I actually did have a heart attack. And at that time, I had my glucose was running a little bit high. And, glucose, the first few letters is GLUE, glue, and I had a spot that decided it wanted to act up, and I did have to have one stent put in. But since then, I mean, I've been studying health for years. I had an uncle that lived in Mississippi, and he called me every week at my machine company, and he would say, have you checked that book out I told you about? Have you done this? Have you done that? And he was really, really big into health. And at 92 years old, he still had black hair and rode a bicycle every day. So, he was really into health himself. But that sort of started me on my journey to realizing how important health is. But being in the machine shop industry, it's very high stress. You literally cram lunch down while you're trying to run a machine, and you don't have time to really take care of yourself properly. And oftentimes at night, especially if you're loaded with work, and there's a machine that had a problem, or somebody killed a part that day or something, and you've got to have that part to a company by tomorrow afternoon. It's just a very high stress situation. So I had a lot of factors actually just working against. It's just something that sometimes you let these factors destroy you if you're not careful. So, and I'm sure you can relate to that. You've probably seen that before. But when Alan Way called me about a year ago, Alan didn't try to push me or anything. I've had some bad experiences with companies, just like what you talked about. You get working with a company, and you're really, excited about it. And you're working hard with them, and then you get the rug pulled out from under you, or they crash the compensation plan, or something, and you've put all this work in, you get discouraged. But when I finally took a look at a couple of videos that Alan actually shared with me, I said, "Holy mackerel!" I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was in immediately, because I was actually familiar with zeolite, and then Alan explained the micronization process to me, and I totally got it, because if your blood has particulate floating around in it, number one, I guess you could probably stand a chance of something plugging up faster, and then your kidneys are trying to clean that particulate out of the blood. But if you can get that particulate out of the blood, then you should very possibly the body will start healing itself, especially if you've got clean blood. I kind of look at it like a guppy bowl. If you got a guppy bowl and that water starts getting dirty looking, the guppies have a tendency not to live too long, and I think the human body's sort of the same way. So when I saw what it was all about, and then on the fiber product, I noticed that it had sodium bicarbonate in it. And a lot of people don't really know that your kidneys actually make sodium bicarbonate, and the reason it does that is to try to buffer your alkalinity back to 7.35 when you've eaten things that's pushing it out of the range that your body needs to be in and wants to be in. Your body will do anything it takes. It'll rob minerals from anywhere in your body to force it to get back to 7.35 and or 365. I'm sorry, 7.365. But I just realized then that Rik was probably knew exactly what he was doing when he added sodium bicarbonate to the fiber product, because actually I check my urine pH on kind of a regular basis, and then if I'm sort of getting out of that range and leaning into acidic condition, I usually will take sodium bicarbonate and mix some up in a glass of water and just drink it down, and very shortly after that you're right back in the range of 7.365 or pretty close. So I just realized many years ago, after I've read a number of books on the importance of alkalinity. And, diabetics have a really, really tough time staying alkaline. And that's really important for them to do through diet or whatever means they can do to keep that alkalinity, close to that 7.365. So, but then, the Alan didn't show me. I don't think Alan showed me the compensation plan, but I went and looked at it. And then one of Alan's good friends, Doc, he went over the comp, or hasn't gone over it with me yet, but he explained it to me some, and he's just been everybody that I've met so far has just been so helpful to work with everybody to understand everything about the company. Chip was so kind a couple of days ago to meet on the phone, have a three-way with a couple of friends of mine that I'm actually trying to bring into the business, and both of them have got kidney problems. And he did a great job in explaining, why they needed to be on this product. And so far, neither one of them have come back, and it really breaks my heart because, but I love both these guys, and they need to. I think that they think that I'm trying to just sell them something, but I'm actually not. I mean, I'm getting close to retirement, and I've been praying for something that I can do that really means something. I mean, means something to humanity, and that's just where my heart is. So, I actually just want to be able to go out and help people, and I think that the rest of it will come. So, that's a big part of why I'm here.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for sharing that. And you're saying that you're going to retire. You mean you're retiring from the machine company, but you're moving into a new career. Just so you know, it'll be
Oh yeah,
you'll join with us.
that's it. That's exactly right. But
look at everybody smiling, shaking their head, yes, because
yeah,
some of us we don't work a day in our lives because we love what we do. Amen, right?
I guarantee you. But I've done my part for humanity and mankind in this industry, and I've been very lucky to have gotten out alive.
Yeah.
I've machined a lot of dangerous materials over the years, beryllium, copper, and beryllium's a really, really dangerous one. And I tell you, while Dave was talking, I was in there taking my cell defender and drinking water. So, but just really excited to be here, and I appreciate everybody.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you on camera and meeting you in Las Vegas in March. Okay, how does that sound? And thank you.
I will do my best.
All right, thank you for joining us tonight. Chip, why don't you give us a wrap up of tonight, if you don't mind? We're grateful for this amazing guest tonight, both of them. Thank you for being here. Chip,
well, I'm thinking of maybe a 3-minute wrap up, and I'm going to use half of it to talk about the ingredients and the other half just to marvel at the faces and the voices on tonight. I'm just watching the faces pop up and down, the expressions and the people clapping and, the genuine outpouring and the voice version of the faces are Dave Neff and Wayne Redman. Those guys have remarkable voices. It's fun to do stuff with Wayne because he can't stop himself from saying, something will hit him and he'll agree with it, and you'll get that holy mackerel or golly, and so and you heard what Dave's voice is like. I'm going to go through the ingredients of the cardio here just real quick.
Thank you.
Coenzyme Q10 required for every cell to make power. L-arginine, L-citrulline work together, 2 amino acids that help with muscle function. In conjunction, they work better than one by itself. Grapeseed extract, pycnogenol, a fabulous antioxidant. You got to win that battle every day. 90% polyphenols in that one. And then a really strong form of vitamin C, ascorbyl palmitate. Selenium, one of the most likely biologically active metals to be missing. Hawthorn, the only ingredient from a berry or from anything ever shown to actually improve congestive heart failure. The only ingredient ever shown to actually improve congestive heart failure. And So I just watched Dr. Kara Cruz give a thumbs up, and I wish, I don't know if Wayne was watching or not, but Wayne, you had her bobbing her head, yes. So, the machine shop technology apparently works in the medical world too. So that's a good thing. Brevicapine is one of the most expensive ingredients we have in any product, and it's there for peripheral circulation. When you're talking 100,000 miles of blood vessels, the ones that get down to where only one cell can go through at a time is most of those miles, and that's where brevicapine goes to work, is in that peripheral capillary beds. Taurine, once again, an amino acid, just think Taurus, strong like bull. Think like that. And detoxylite, and then beet powder. How many articles have you seen lately about red beets and blood pressure? Well, here we go. So that was my summary for the night, and I just wanted you guys to hear, what's in here that makes it tick. And thank you guys for the stories. I do like, I enjoy listening to everybody. I get a kick out of Dave because it's story form, it's family form, and I have to say, all of the siblings, that's a lot of siblings. But the guy that walks in and he's the worst guy ever at 51 and turns into near perfect, that took maybe a minute to tell that part of the story. And for this particular product, that was pretty doggone compelling in a minute, right? That's what I got, you guys. And as you know, Avini Vibes on Thursday nights, really, really special place for me to come. And thank you for making me and everybody else feel welcome here. You guys do a beautiful job of putting this together, and so grateful for Avini Vibes.
Thank you, Chip. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I just want to thank again Dave and Wayne for joining us tonight. And next week, because it will be the holiday, we are still going to be here on Thursday night. What we'd like you to do is bring your stories, because there's going to be no feature. You will be the feature. So everybody, your homework is think about something you're thankful for and something you want to share, okay? So we're going to go around the room next week. So bring your stories. Take your good vibes with you. Keep Avini-iting, and we'll see you all next week. God bless each and every one of you. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Good night now.
Happy holidays, guys. Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.